Good morning, students. Say your prayer. நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர். நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்த முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர். நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்த முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர். நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்த முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். Okay, students. Good morning. Take your social science book and take page number 47. So today we will move to history. So unit 5, educational development in India. So in our previous class we discussed about secularism. So I hope you have no doubt in that lesson. In history, in last lesson we discussed about the freedom fight. So in the 19th century, so we discussed about the Great Revolt and also the Palaikar Revolt. So first we discussed about the revolt. So the Palaikar Revolt from South India. Then finally about the Great Revolt, so which took place in North India. In today's class we will move to the next unit in history, educational development in India. So nowadays, so how you get education? So through schools and colleges and also from universities you get education. Then, so in what way our ancient people get education? So do you have any idea? So in Gurukulas, so they have to, so the students, they have to settle in the teacher's house and they help the teacher's family and get education. So for that they have to stay there itself. So nearly for 5 to 10 years like that. So initially they get education like that only. So this was the type of education in ancient period. Then it slowly changes in the medieval period. Now in modern days we get education through schools. So we daily go to schools and get education and we return back to our home. And also there is some residency schools also there. So our government also take a lot of steps to give education. In ancient period only a particular group of community only can get education. But nowadays, so all of us, so all the people, irrespective of their caste and religion and their creed, so they are getting education. So how the education process developed in India, so we will discuss in today's lesson. Okay, so educational development in India. So first we will discuss about ancient education system, then medieval education system, then modern education system. So in modern education system we discussed the way of development during the British period, then after independence. Then learning objectives. So what are you going to learn from this lesson? So know the ancient system of education in India. So know the ancient system of education. So how the education system existed in India. So before 2000 years ago. Okay, then understand the development of education in medieval and modern India. Then you understand about the development of education in medieval and modern India. Then analyze the education development during the British rule. So modern India, so almost starts from the Mughals period. But it was peak during the British rule. So the education development during the British rule. Then discuss the importance of national education policy. So after independence, in order to give education to the citizens, so in order to achieve 100% literacy rate, so our government have various policies. So the commonly they were called as national education policy. Then understand the education development in Tamil Nadu. So finally you will understand about the educational development in Tamil Nadu. Okay, so learning objectives: know the ancient system of education in India, then understand the development of education in medieval and modern India, then analyze the education development during the British rule, then discuss the importance of national education policy, then finally about understand the education development in Tamil Nadu. So in today's class you will learn about ancient and medieval system of education. So how the education system developed in ancient India and also in medieval India. Introduction. So education is a continuous process of acquiring and sharing of knowledge, skills and values. So what is education? So the process of getting knowledge. So process of acquiring and sharing of knowledge, skills and values. So it is a continuous process. So till your death, so till our death, so we learn something. So not only in schools, we learn lot of things outside the world. So outside the school. So we learn so lot of things. So education is a continuous process of acquiring and sharing of knowledge, skills and values. So education is recognized the foundation of a progressive society. So progressive means in favor of new idea, then so methods of change, etc. So education is recognized as the foundation of a new society. It plays an vital role in shaping responsible people. So education play an important role in shaping the people. The world we live is constantly changing and developing. So the world we live is constantly changing. So there are a lot of changes so we are facing. So just think us. So last year, so we came to school and get our education. But what happened nowadays? So after the coronavirus, so we get education through online classes. So there is changes we have seen now. So the world we live is constantly changing and developing. So to meet the challenges and overcome the obstacles, we need to be well educated. So in order to meet the challenges and overcome the obstacles, so we have to get education. And to know the role of the education in human development process. So in this class, we will learn about the education in ancient India, then medieval India and modern India. So education is a continuous process of acquiring and sharing of knowledge, skills and values. So education is recognized as the foundation of a developing society. It plays an important role in shaping the people. So the world we live is constantly changing and developing. So in order to meet the challenges and overcome the obstacles, we need to be well educated and to know the role of the education in the human development process. So first, education in ancient India. So how we know about the education system in ancient India? So from the historical sources. So the historical sources provide the information that from very early times, the tradition of teaching and learning had been in fashion for something in India. So the historical sources provide the information from early times, the tradition of teaching and learning had been existed in India. So the concept of education might have been originated from the Vedas. So the concept of education might have been originated from the Vedas. So the literal meaning of the Sanskrit word Veda is knowledge. So you know about the Vedas. So the concept of education have originated from the Vedas. So the literal meaning of the word Veda, so the Sanskrit word Veda is knowledge, and the word Veda is derived from the word with, which means to know. So the concept of education have been originated from Vedas. So actually Veda is a Sanskrit word. So which is derived from the word with, so that means to know. Our ancient education system evolved over many centuries and focused on the holistic development of the individual. So our ancient education system evolved over many centuries. So we don't know the exact year. So it evolved many centuries ago. And it focused on the internal development of the individual. So it gave importance to the holistic development of the individual. So by taking care of both the innate. So innate means so that you have when you are born. So innate capabilities means so you have some skill. So by nature. So by your birth. And latent. So active, and it was developed later. So our ancient system, education system evolved over many centuries, and it focused on the holistic development of the individual by taking care of both the innate and latent capacities. It emphasized on values. So it gave importance to the values such as humanity, truthfulness, discipline, self-reliance. So self-reliance means so state of needing something in order to survive. And respect for all creations. So our ancient education system so gave importance to humanity, humility, truthfulness, discipline, self-reliance, and also respect for all creations. So respect for all others. Then what are the sources of learning in ancient India? So already I have heard the names such as Banini, Aryabhatta, Katyayana and Patanjali. So among them you will know about Aryabhatta and Patanjali. So their writings and their medical treatise of Charaka and Sushruta were also some of the sources of learning. So how the ancient Indian students so learned the things. So if there is any book like nowadays we have? No. So mostly they get oral education, or sometimes they may written in palm leaf. So you have heard the names of Panini, Aryabhatta, Katyayana and Patanjali. So their writings and the medical treatises. So medical books. So treatises means so something written. So their writings and the medical treatises of Charaka and Sushruta are also some of the sources of learning. Various disciplines such as history, logic, interpretation. So a particular way in which something is understood. So interpretation, architecture, polity, agriculture, trade, commerce, animal husbandry, and archery. So archery means the art of shooting with the bow and arrow were taught. So what they learned in the ancient system. So disciplines such as history, logic, interpretation, architecture, polity, agriculture, trade, commerce, animal husbandry, and archery were taught. So physical education too was an important curricular area, and people participated in games and recreational activities. So apart from the education, so they gave importance to physical education also. So physical education was an important curricular area, and peoples and the students so participated in games and recreational activities. So the gurus and their students worked conscientiously. So conscientiously means so taking care, do things carefully and correctly. So the gurus and the students worked carefully together to become proficient in all aspects of learning. So the gurus and the students worked very carefully so together to become well in all aspects of learning. In order to assess the students, in order to check the students' skill, so literary debates were organized. So in order to analyze the students' knowledge, so literary discussions were organized. So students at an advanced stage of learning guided younger students. So students who were at an advanced stage of learning were guided. Were guided younger students. A system of peer learning. So peer means a system who is in same age or who has the same social status. So a system who has the same social status. A system of peer learning was also practiced, like you have group or peer worker. So a system of peer learning, that is group learning, was also practiced. So the guru and their students worked together, so worked carefully together to become knowledge, so to become well in all aspects of learning. So in order to analyze the students' knowledge, so literary discussions were organized. So students at an advanced stage of learning, so guided the younger students. A system of so group learning was also practiced. So like you are doing so group study now, so like that a system of group learning is also practiced. So ancient education system in India, so a way of life. So ancient education system in India, a way of life. So in ancient India, both formal and informal education existed. In ancient India, both formal and informal education existed. So formal means so regular education. So informal, so mostly they get from their surroundings, so from their family. Indigenous education. So indigenous means so belonging to a particular place, so not coming from a new place or not coming from other areas. Indigenous education was imparted at home, in temples, padashalas and gurukulas. So there were people in homes and villages and temples who guided the young children in imbibing. So imbibing means so absorb something like knowledge. So imbibing pious way of life. So in ancient India, both formal and informal education existed. So indigenous education was imparted at home, in temples, padashalas and gurukulas. So there were elder people in homes, villages and temples who guided the younger children in absorbing knowledge. So temples played an important role in imparting education and served the centers of learning. So in ancient India, so temples played an important role in imparting education and served the centers of learning. So students went to viharas, that is temples and universities, for higher studies. So students went to viharas and universities for higher studies. So teaching was oral and students remembered and meditated upon what was taught in the gurukulas. So teaching was oral. So because during the time there is no paper like that and all. So and there is no board. So we use blackboard now. So like that there is no blackboard, paper written, etc. So teaching was oral and students remembered and meditated. So meditated means so they recalled. So what was taught in the gurukulas. So in ancient India, both formal and informal education existed. So indigenous education was imparted at home and also in temples, padasalas and gurukulas. So there were people in homes, villages and temples who guided the younger children in absorbing knowledge about various way of life. Temple play an important role in imparting education and served the centers of learning. So students, so they went to viharas and universities for higher studies. So teaching was oral and students remembered and meditated upon what was taught in the gurukulas. So many of these Gurukulas were named after the sages. So sages, a very wise person. So many of the Gurukulas were named after the sages. So they were situated. So these Gurukulas were situated in forest in Siran. So Siran means a calm and peaceful surroundings. Then hundreds of students used to learn together in Gurukulas. So the Gurukulas so were named after the sages. So students, so they remembered and meditated upon what was taught in the Gurukulas, and these Gurukulas were named after the sages. So the Gurukulas were situated mostly in forest in a calm and peaceful surrounding. So here, so hundreds of students are used to learn together. So during the early period, education was imparted by the teacher, so who was called as Guru or Acharya. So during the early period, education was so taught by the teacher, so who was called as Guru or Acharya to the pupils, so who gathered around him and came to live in his house as the members of his family. So during the early period of education, so education was imparted by the teacher to the pupils, so who gathered around him and came to live in his house as the member of his family. This was known as Gurukula system of education. So this was known as, so that is, so the pupils so stay around the Guru family, so Guru's house, and get education. So this type of education is called as Gurukula system of education. So during that period, the Guru and their Shishyas, that is the students, so lived together, helping each other in day-to-day life. So during that period, the Guru and their students, so the Guru and their Shishyas lived together, helping each other in day-to-day life. The main objective was to have complete learning, leading a disciplined life and realizing one's inner potential. So the main objective of Gurukula system was to have complete learning, leading a disciplined life and realizing one's internal value, so one's inner potential, so one's inner capability. Students lived away from their homes for years together till they achieved their goal. So students, so the Shishyas, so they have to live so away from their home for many years, so until they achieve their goals. The Gurukula was also the place where the relationship between the Guru and the student strengthened within time. So the Gurukula was also the place where the relationship between the Guru and the Shishya so strengthened within the time. Many monasteries and viharas. So viharas, a member of a religion community who promises to serve God, so of their whole life. So a member of a family, so religious community who promises to serve God, so for their whole life. So many monasteries. So monasteries, so the place of the monks, so the place of the sages, so who lived and learned education. So many monasteries and viharas were set up for monks and nuns to meditate and debate, discuss with the learned for their quest for knowledge during this period. So during this period, so many monasteries and viharas were set up for the monks and nuns to meditate and to debate and discuss what they learned, and also write the question and get knowledge. Around these viharas, other educational centers of higher learning developed, which attracted students from China, Korea, Tibet, Burma, Ceylon, Java, Nepal, and other distant countries. So many monasteries and viharas were set up for monks and nuns to meditate, debate, and discuss with the learned for their quest, so for their wish for knowledge during this period. Around these viharas, other educational centers of higher learning developed, so which attracted students from China, Korea, Tibet, Burma, Ceylon, Java, Nepal, and other distant countries. So viharas and universities in Buddhist period. So the Jataka tales. So Jataka tales, a voluminous body of literature, so which is native to India, so concerning the previous birth of Lord Buddha. So Jataka tales, so which is a voluminous body of literature. So it is a literature works. So it is from India. So which concerns about the, so which give importance to the previous birth of Buddha in human and animal form. So the Jataka tales, so accounts given by Yuan Shuang and Ai Xing, so both were Chinese scholars, and other sources tell us that kings and society took an active interest in promoting education. So the Jataka tales, so an account so about Lord Buddha, so given by Yuan Shuang and I sing. So the Chinese scholars and also other sources tell us that kings and society took an active interest in promoting education. Through monasteries and viharas, so Buddhist scholars carried out the educational work. So through the monasteries and viharas, the Buddhist scholars carried out the educational work. As a result, many famous educational centers came into existence. So through monasteries and viharas, Buddhist scholars carried out the educational work. So because of their work, many famous educational centers came into existence. Among the most notable universities that emerged during that period were situated at Dakshila, Nalanda, Vallabhi, Vikramashila, Vadantapuri and Jagatala. So because of the works carried out by the Buddhist scholars, so many educational institutions developed. So the notable universities were Dakshila, Nalanda, Vallabhi, Vikramashila, Vadantapuri and Jagatala. Okay. So these universities developed in connection with the viharas. So those at the Benares and Kanji developed in relation with the temples and became centers of community life in the places where they were situated. So these institutions, so catered, that is provide particular things to the needs of the advanced level students. So such students joined the center of higher learning and developed their knowledge by mutual discussion and debates with renowned scholars. So not only there, so there was also occasional summoning by a king to a gathering in which the scholars of the various viharas and universities would meet and debate and exchange their views. So the Jataka tells, so the accounts given by Yuan Shuang and I Sing and other sources tell us the king and society took an active interest in promoting education. So because of the work carried out by the Buddhist scholars, so many famous education institutions such as Dakshila, Nalanda, Vallabhi, Vikramasila, Vadantapuri and Jagatala so came into existence. So these universities developed in connection with the viharas. So those at Benares and Kanji so were developed in relationship with the temples and they became the centers of community life in the places where they situated. So these institutions, so they catered, that means to provide particular things. So these institutions catered to the needs of the advanced level students. So these students, so the advanced level students, so joined the centers of higher learning and developed their knowledge by mutual discussion and debates and discussion with the renowned scholars. So not only there, so there was also occasional discussion, so arranged by a king, so in which the scholars of the various viharas and universities would meet, debate and exchange their views. So, role of the teacher. So teachers had complete autonomy. So they have complete power in all aspects of from selection of students to designing their syllabus. So teachers had complete autonomy. So they have complete power. So in all aspects from selection of students to design their syllabus. So the teachers have the power to choose the students. And they can design their syllabus. When the teacher was satisfied with the performance of the students, the course concluded. So when the teacher was satisfied with the performance of the students, the course concluded. So the teacher can decide so what type of education so can be imparted. So he can understand the knowledge of the students and based on the innate and inner knowledge, the teacher will guide the student. He would admit as many as students he liked and taught what his students were keen to learn. So the guru, so the teacher can admit as many as students he liked and he can taught what his students were keen to learn. So debate and discussions were the primary methods of teaching. So debate and discussions were the primary methods of teaching. So teachers were assisted by their advanced level students. So the teachers were assisted by their advanced levels of students. So till now we discussed about the ancient education system in India. So initially the students, so they have to go to the guru family, so guru home, so the teacher's home, so which was situated in forest, and get education. So they have to stay there, so until they get the knowledge. Then later the viharas and the monasteries were developed. So the universities were developed, especially during the Buddhist period. So the teacher, so he have the complete power to choose the students and give education. So what the students was interested. So this type of education was existed in ancient India. Then medieval India. So medieval period witnessed a radical transformation with the introduction of Muslim education in the Indian subcontinent. So medieval period, so saw a radical transformation, saw a major transformation with the introduction of Muslim education in Indian subcontinent. So India was invaded by various foreign rulers and several traders from different parts of the world. So India during medieval period was invaded by various foreign rulers, especially the Muslim rulers. The tradesmen and the invaders brought with them their own culture and they were mingled with the people of the country. The traders and the invaders, so the foreign rulers, they brought their own culture and they mingled with the people of the country. Besides religion, society and culture, education in medieval India also experienced a new change. So besides religion, society and culture, education in medieval India also undergo various changes. The aim of education during the Muslim period was the elimination and extension of knowledge. So the aim of the education, so during the medieval India, so during the Muslim period was the elimination. So elimination means, so that exists, but you can't see. In the 11th century, the Muslim rulers established the elementary and secondary schools. In the 11th century, the Muslim rulers established the elementary, the basic and secondary schools. Education developed with a fresh aspect during the period as there was an excellent interaction between the Indian and Islamic traditions. Education developed with a fresh aspect. So because during that time, there was an excellent interaction between the Indian and Islamic traditions in all field of knowledge, like theology, religion, philosophy, fine arts, painting, architecture, mathematics, medicine and astronomy. So medieval period saw a radical transformation. So because of the coming of the Muslim invaders. So the country was invaded by various foreign rulers and traders from different parts of the world, so who mingled with the people of the country. So besides religion, society and culture, education in medieval India also experienced a new change. So the aim of the Muslim period, so the aim of the education during the Muslim period was the elimination and extension of knowledge. In the 11th century, Muslim rulers established elementary and secondary schools. Education developed with a fresh aspect. So there was an excellent interaction between the Indian and Islamic traditions in all field of knowledge, so like theology, religion, philosophy, fine art, painting, architecture, mathematics, medicine and astronomy. So however, before the arrival of the Muslims in India, a developed system of education was already in place. So however, before the arrival of the Muslims in India, there was a well-developed education system. Muslim rulers promoted urban education by starting libraries and literary societies. So Muslim rulers promoted the education in urban areas, so just by promoting and starting a number of libraries and literary societies. They founded primary schools, so called as maktabs, in which students learn reading, writing and basic Islamic prayers. So the Muslim rulers founded the primary schools, so the maktab, in which the students learn reading, writing and basic Islamic prayers. And secondary schools called as madrasas were established to teach advanced language skill. So the Muslim rulers founded the primary schools called as maktabs, in which the students learned to read, write and learn about the basic Islamic prayers. And the secondary schools, so the madrasas were established to teach advanced language skill. So several madrasas were set up by the sultans and the nobles. So the main objectives of the madrasas was to train and educate the scholars who would become eligible for the civil service. So the main objective of the madrasas was to train and educate the scholars who would become eligible for the civil service. So that is for the government services. Iltutmish. So he was the first ruler to establish a madrasa at Delhi during his rule. So he belongs to slave dynasty. Iltutmish was the first sultan to establish a madrasa at New Delhi during his rule. So gradually many madrasas came into existence. So the system of education in medieval India was under the control of ulema. So the religious leader of Muslims. So the system of education in medieval India was under the control of ulema. During those days, education was related to religious training. So during medieval India, the education was related to religious training. However, various subjects such as medicine, Arabic literature, grammar and philosophy were also taught. So apart from the religious teaching, so medicine, Arabic literature, grammar and philosophy were also taught. History states that Arab and Central Asian people brought Muslim education models to India in both the medieval and early modern periods. So history states that Arab and Central Asian people brought Muslim educational model to India in both the medieval and the early modern period, that is during the Mughal period. Women education in India was prevalent during the medieval period. So women education in India was also common during the medieval period. So the system of education in medieval India was under the control of ulema. During those days, education was related to religious training only. So however, various subjects such as medicine, Arabic literature, grammar, philosophy were also taught. So history states that Arab and Central Asian people brought Muslim education to India in both the medieval and the early modern period. Women education in India was also prevalent during the medieval period. So Raja Jai Singh from Jaipur. He encouraged the learning of scientific subject. So besides, many institutions were started by the private individuals as well. So besides the kings, so many institutions were started by the private persons. So Madrasa of Ghaziuddin in Delhi and the Madrasa of Maulana Sharuddin at Shahjanabad. So they were, so some of the private individuals so started the madrasas. In the later medieval period, the British came to India and introduced English education. In the later medieval period, the British came to India and they introduced the English education. With the coming of the European missionaries, Western education made advanced in the country. So with the coming of the European missionaries, so Western education so made advanced, so made important in the country. So various universities and thousands of colleges were formed and popularity of education increased. So in the later medieval period, the British came to India and they introduced the English education. So with the coming of the European missionaries, so Western education was introduced. So various universities and thousands of colleges were formed and the popularity of education increased. Okay students, so today's class we learn about what is meant by education, the education system in ancient India, in Middle India. So Middle India, especially during the Muslim period. So they introduced the Muslim culture, so the Muslim education system in India. But at the end of the medieval period, so European missionaries, so they started number of schools and universities, so which developed the education system in India. So you have learned about that. In tomorrow's class, we will learn about the education system in British India. So take your book. So textbook reading. So take page number 48. So read the heading Viharas and universities during this period. Then the role of the teacher. Then homework. So take page number 57. So 7th Roman letter, answer the following in detail. First question, what were the sources of education in ancient India? So take page number 47. So sources of learning. So in that, so see third line. So their writings. So instead of their, write Banini, Aryabhatta, Katyayana and Patanjali writings and the medical thesis of Charaka and Susruta. So starting from that, so it end in next page. So next page, so 5th line, like you have group or peer works. So till that, so answer for first detail. Okay, so instead of there, write Panini, Aryabhatta, Katyayana and Patanjali. So sources of learning. So starting from second line. So Panini, Aryabhatta, Katyayana and Patanjali. Strike out the word there. So join writings. So starting from that and it ends in next page. So first paragraph, so fully. So like you have group or peer works. So till that, that is the answer for first detail. Okay, so write it and read it well. So thank you students. Have a nice day.